Hello, I'm Phil Clark, and welcome to World Book Day. I'm sat here in the Courtyard Theatre in Hereford, and I'm a theatre director. What's that? Well, I make theatre. That's what I do all day, every day. I create theatre that travels all over the world, and I've specialised in making theatre for young people. I've done lots of the Roald Dolls, like Boy and Matilda, James and the Giant Peach. I've done nearly all of the doll titles. And the other ones that you might know is I've done all the stage plays of the horrible histories. So horrible history of the Romans, the Egyptians, World War One, World War Two, done them all and traveled them all over the world. I really like books for young people. When the Courtyard asked me to choose a book for World Book Day, I've chosen Skellig by David Almond. Now, I've read all of David's plays and all of his books for young people. I love him. I think he's a great writer. He has an extraordinary power to make stories fascinating and relevant to young people. So today I'm going to read from Skellig. Now, I did the stage play of Skellig about 10 years ago, and we toured it all over Britain. And we also took it to New York and played it on Broadway. It was a fantastic experience. And that's the other thing that I like about David's work. It speaks to young people all over the world, like Roald Dahl does. So I've chosen to read an extract from Skellig. It's taken from the middle of the book, and for those of you who know the book, or those of you who don't know the book, it's about a young boy in Newcastle upon Tyne who moves to a new house and finds something in the dilapidated garage in the garden. And basically that's what the play's about. He's not quite sure what he's found, but he's fascinated by it, and he keeps going back to the garage to visit the creature that he's found in the garage. The bit I'm going to read to you is when he takes his best friend Mina into the garage to explain to her, or to introduce her to what he's found in the garage. So that's it. So here we go. It's called Skellig by David Almond, and this is the boy taking Mina into the garage. I led her quickly along the front street. Then I turned into the back lane. I led her past the high back garden walls. "Where are we going?" she said. "Not far." I looked up at her yellow top and blue jeans. "The place is filthy," I said. "And it's dangerous." She buttoned the blouse to her throat. She clenched her fists. "Good," she said. "Keep going, Michael." I opened our back garden gate. "Here," she said. She stared at me. "Yes, yes." I stood at the garage door with her. She peered into the gloom. I picked up the beer and the torch. "We'll need these," I said. I took the capsules from my pockets. "And these as well." Her eyes narrowed, and she looked right into me. "Trust me," I said. I hesitated. "It's not just that it's dangerous," I said. "I'm worried that you won't see what I think I see." She took my hand and squeezed it. "I'll see whatever's there," she whispered. "Take me in." I switched on the torch and stepped inside. Things scratched and scuttled across the floor. I felt Mina tremble. Her palms began to sweat. I held her hand tight. "It's all right," I said. "Just keep close to me." We squeezed between the rubbish and the broken furniture. Cobwebs snapped on our clothes and skin. Dead blue bottles attached themselves to us. The ceiling creaked and the dust fell from the rotten timbers. As we approached the tea chests, I started to shake. Maybe Mina won't see nothing. Maybe I'd been wrong all along. Maybe dreams and truth were just a useless muddle in my mind. I leaned forward, shone the light into the gap behind the tea chests. "Again," it squeaked. I heard Mina stifle a cry. I felt a hand sniffing. I pulled her closer. "It's all right," I whispered. "I brought my friend," I said, like I said I would. "This is Mina." He turned his eyes towards her, then lowered them again. I showed him the brown ale. I brought this as well." He laughed, but he didn't smile. I squeezed through to him. I snapped the cap off the bottle with the opening of the knife and crouched beside him. He tipped his head back and let me pour some of the beer into his mouth. He swallowed. Some of it trickled from his mouth onto his black suit. "Nectar," he said. "Drink of the gods." He tipped his head back again, and I poured again. I looked back at Mina's dark form, looking down at us, her pale face, her mouth and eyes gaping in astonishment. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Mister, had enough of you," he squeaked. "I saw a doctor," I said. "Not Dr. Death, one that could fix you." "No doctors, nobody, nothing. Let me be." "You'll die. You'll crumble away and die." "Crumble, grumble." He tipped his head back. "More beer." I poured more beer. "I brought these as well," I said. I held a cod liver oil capsule out to him. "Some people swear by them," I said. He sniffed. "Stick of fish," he squeaked. "Slimy, slithery, swimming things." There were tears in my eyes. "He just sits there," I said. "He doesn't care. It's like he's waiting to die. I don't know what to do." "Do nothing," he squeaked. He closed his eyes, lowered his head. Mina came in beside us. She crouched, stared at his face, as dry and pale as plaster, as the dead blue bottles and cobwebs, as the spiders and the beetles that scuttled across him. She took the torch from me. She shone it on his thin body in the dark suit, on the long legs stretched out on the floor, on the swollen hands that rested at his side. She picked up one of the dark furry balls from beside him. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Nobody." She reached out and touched his cheek. "Dry and cold," she whispered. "How long have you been here?" "Long enough." "Are you dead?" He groaned. "Kids, questions, always the same." "Tell her things," I said. "She's clever. She'll know what to do." He laughed, but he didn't smile. "Let me see her," he said. Mina turned the torch to her face, and it was brilliant white, with pitch-dark gaps where her mouth and eyes were. "I'm called Mina," she said. She sighed. "I'm Mina," she said. You're Mina," he said. "I'm sick to death." She touched his hands. She lifted his filthy cuff and touched his scrawny, twisted wrists. "Calification," she said. "The process by which the bone hardens, becomes inflexible, the process by which the body turns to stone." "Not as stupid as she looks," he squeaked. "It is linked to another process," she said, "by which the mind too becomes inflexible. It stops thinking and imagining. It becomes hard as bone. It is no longer a mind. It is a lump of bone wrapped in a wall of stone. This process is ossification." He sighed. "More beer," he said. I poured more beer into his mouth. "Take her away," he whispered. The roof trembled in the breeze. Dust fell on us. Mina and I crouched close together, our knees almost resting on him. She twisted her face as she caught the stench of his breath. I took a hand and guided it to his shoulder blades. I pressed her fingertips against the bulge beneath his jacket. She leaned across him, felt his other shoulder blade. When she looked at me, her eyes in the torchlight were shining bright. Her face was almost touching his. Their pale skins bloomed in the torchlight. "What are you?" she whispered. No answer. He sat there with his head lowered, his eyes closed. "We can help you," she whispered. No answer. I felt the tears running from my eyes. "There's somewhere we could take you," said Mina. "It's safer there. Nobody would know. You could just sit there dying too, if that's really what you want." Something brushed past us. I shone the torch down, saw Whisper entering the space behind the tea chest. "Whisper," said Mina. The cat moved to his side, pressed itself against the damaged hands. He sighed. "Smooth and soft," he whispered. Whisper purred. The timbers creaked. Dust fell on us again. "Please let us take you somewhere else," I said. "More beer," he whispered. I held out a cod liver oil capsule. "Take one of these as well," I said. He tipped his head back. I poured the beer in. I dropped the capsule onto his pale tongue. He opened his eyes. He looked deep into Mina. She looked deep into him. "You must let us help you," she said. He was silent for a long time. "Do what you want," he sighed. We stood in the wilderness. Whisper sat beneath us. We picked the blue bottles and webs out of each other's clothes and hair. Her eyes were burning bright. "He's an extraordinary being," she said. The breeze blew and the garage creaked. "We'll take him out tonight," she said. "At dawn," I said. "We'll call each other. We'll hoot like owls. We'll make sure we wake." We stared into each other. "An extraordinary being," she whispered. She opened a hand and showed me the dark ball of congealed skin and bone she had brought out with her. "What is it?" I said. She bit her lip. "It can't be what I think it is," she said. "It can't be." Dad came into the back window. He stood there watching us. "I'll go back now," I said. "I'll carry on doing the garden. And I'll go back making the blackbird. I'll see you at dawn. At dawn. I won't sleep." She squeezed my hand, slipped out through the gate with Whisper at her heels. I turned back into the wilderness. I waved at Dad. My heart was thundering. I knelt in the soil, wrenched at the weeds, sent black beetles scattering. "He won't die," I whispered. "He won't just die." Later, Dad came out. We drank orange juice together and sat against the house wall. He grinned. "You like Mina then?" he said. I shrugged. "You do," he said. "She's extraordinary," I said. Here we are. That's my reading from David Allman's Skellig. It's magical what he manages to do. He manages to put into his books things that young people do all the time, exploring, going into places, going into building dens, finding out things. Hi folks, might have just lost you for a moment then, but I'm back now. I hope you enjoyed the extract. It's a great book, please read it. The other thing is that there is a play script as well. Great for reading around the classroom. Here's an idea. David Allman says quite at the early end, the beginning of the book, just imagine. And I think those two words are really important. Just imagine, using our imagination. Because David makes you see the extraordinary in the everyday, in the ordinary, like he sees the extraordinariness in Mina. So here's a task. What's in your garage? What's there that could be extraordinary? What could you imagine? What could you just imagine to be in your garage and that you could ask your best friend to come and visit? What would you like there to be in your garage? Something extraordinary? Write that story. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day, and please keep reading wonderful books. Thank you.